All right, let's get a couple of the obvious things out of the way. Yeah, I live in a dungeon. I haven't seen sunlight in about, I don't know, what, 6 years? When did I graduate high school? I can't remember this shit. Anyway, let's get to what you came for. We're going to be talking about my favorite. That probably blew up the mic. My favorite topic of the year, every single year. I didn't make one last year because I had some shit in the way. But every other year besides last year, my favorite topic is always, hold on, Real Spiel's Summer 2024 box office predictions, baby. You knew it was coming. You wait for it every single year, and here we go. I predicted the top 10 box office hits domestically, obviously. I can't account for worldwide shit. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. Russia might nuke us all tomorrow. So I'm just going to be worrying about domestic, USA, Canada. Mexico should probably be involved in that, but it's not. So US and Canada is what we're talking about today. Look, the truth of the matter is I made a PowerPoint. Think of that as you will. And I think of that towards myself in some way as well, to be completely honest. But yes, I did make a PowerPoint because I figured I don't have the time to make YouTube videos nowadays. I'm struggling as it is. You know, you got to understand, I'm working a full-time job. I'm taking care of my life. I'm living in a dungeon. I mean, you know this. You can expect that a man like me living in a dungeon could probably have quite a difficult life at some points of his time. So anyway, we are going to be talking about the summer 2024 box office predictions, and here is number one. At number one, I have Inside Out 2. You know, to be completely honest, sometimes the number one spot is very, very obvious, and then I get it wrong. So when I saw that it was going to be Inside Out 2, Deadpool, Wolverine, Despicable Me 4, I had to do a deep hard thinking, what could be number one? And truly, I think it's going to be Inside Out 2. This has the kid market. We keep forgetting about Deadpool and Wolverine. That is an R-rated movie. You can't really take the kiddies to that one, or a lot of people are going to because, you know, etiquette, theater etiquette, parenthood, I guess you could say, all that out of the window these days. So you are going to be seeing children at Deadpool and Wolverine, but this is going to be a lot of children. And, you know, Disney, Pixar, they have been struggling in the last couple years. I saw a very interesting statistic recently. There's only been 4 movies since COVID, animated movies, that made over $500 million at the box office. It was Kung Fu Panda 4, Super Mario Bros. Movies, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Minions: The Rise of Gru. And none of those are Disney. That's pretty fucking strange if you think about it. Disney has always been the king of animation, always. And I can't believe we live in a timeline right now where Disney animation is completely on the bottom, and, you know, DreamWorks, fucking Illumination, goddamn, these Russian, like, YouTube animated, like, CoComelon shit is doing better than Disney does nowadays. Granted, Encanto did pretty good after the whole summer. And I think that Inside Out 2, these Pixar sequels, they haven't let us down yet. Incredibles 2 did absolutely amazing. That was the number one movie that summer. Finding Dory was absolutely massive. Toy Story 4, 3, huge movies, massive movies. So these Pixar sequels, they haven't let me down, personally, when I put them on my top 10s. They have let me down in terms of quality a couple times. I'm not a big fan of Finding Dory or Incredibles 2, to be completely honest with you. But this Inside Out 2, I'm feeling good about box office-wise, and I put it at number one domestic. I'm going, families are going to go, kids are going to be going. Inside Out 2, Inside Out 1 has such a massive, beloved fan base. I'm a big fan of it, personally. I like Coco more. A lot of people like Inside Out 1 more than Coco. I'm personally more of a Coco head. A little cuckoo. You know, because of that, I'm personally really excited for Inside Out 2, and I know many, many, many other people are. So I'm putting this at number one. All right, sorry about that fucked up focus my camera was doing. I haven't used it in about 2 years, so I had to do my manual focus. Anyway, let's get back to my top 10 list. And number 2 is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine at number 2. Oh my god, the controversy. Look, yeah, I decided to go with it at number 2. At first it was number 1, and I had to do some thinking, and I came to the conclusion that I'm thinking that this is going to get around 350 domestic, if I had to guess, maybe a little more, 360. I say that, and then it's going to come and it's going to make 500 million, because I know it has that potential. It's an R-rated movie. There's been a lot of R-rated movies that have grabbed the popular zeitgeist. The first Deadpool, Joker, Oppenheimer, just last summer. And none of them came close to making that. I think if this makes 350 million, that would be spectacular. I mean, So why am I hesitant? Because it has some potential that I feel like some No Way Home potential, some even I'll even say Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If this went 420, that would be insane, and it would easily be number one if it went that. Because I don't think Inside Out 2 is going to do that right now, but I don't think it's going to do that. I think this one's going to stay at about 3. Now I don't like getting the numbers when I do this, so I'm not going to make this a habit, but I think this one's going to stay 350. While Inside Out 2 has a little more room to grow. I could see it going up to 370. I mean, the first one made about 375, I think. So I could see that one 375, maybe 400. I mean, animated movies, I don't know. It doesn't blow up. I mean, they have plenty of times. I'm not trying to talk down on them. They have plenty of times. Super Mario Bros. Movies just happened last year, so it very well could. I'm not so sure about that one yet. But I'm thinking Deadpool 2 or Deadpool and Wolverine here at number 2. But look, opening weekend, number 1 right here. Obviously Marvel movies and this new era of Marvel with cameos and the whole multiverse. This movie is just going to be like No Way Home, and Doctor Strange is going to have a massive opening weekend. I'm thinking it could potentially be the biggest R-rated opening of all time. Probably right now, what is it? Joker, Venom, around 100 million. So I think this is easily going to be the number 1 R-rated opening of all time. I'm talking 160, 170 maybe. So yeah, we're looking at a big movie. It matters about the quality. I'm not quite sure about the Marvel quality right now. That's a whole nother thing I haven't gone into. But for right now, my real thing is it's so easy to forget. This movie's rated R. And when something's rated R, nothing has ever gone past 350. I think Passion of the Christ is still number 1 at like 375. So we're not gonna see that with Deadpool and Wolverine. My prediction. All right, here we are at number 3, Despicable Me 4, sequel number 3, and you're gonna find that to be a common trend on this list. So yeah, here we are with Despicable Me 4. What do I think about this movie? I think that Minions was fucking massive just a couple years ago, absolutely massive. I think that this franchise is fucking beloved by so many younger people. I'm not even joking to you. I saw a survey recently that said like 73% of Gen Z's favorite franchise is Despicable Me. So that when I saw that, I saw that today. That threw this whole list up for debate because this could go massive. Just like the last 3 could go massive if they really catch on. And one of them is. And I'm thinking it's going to be Inside Out 2 right now. One of them is because every summer something catches on like that. Barbie, Top Gun Maverick, and guess what? Those are my number 5 and my number 6 on those lists, on their respective lists. So when we get to those, we'll see what the actual number 1 could potentially be. But for right now, I have number 3 at Despicable Me 4. This movie is going to be massive. It comes out the Wednesday before 4th of July. So 4th of July, that whole weekend, that whole week, going to be devoted to Despicable Me 4. Last year, it was Indiana Jones 5, and we saw how that went. So this is going to probably make over double what that did here. So what is there to say about this franchise? You doubt it. I doubted Minions. It's easy to doubt this franchise because you're like, do people still really like this shit? I don't really know if I want to see this. Despicable Me 3 didn't do as amazing as you would think. So that's why I put it at number 3. Quiet Place Day 1. 4. I'm in my dungeon, so luckily nothing's going to hear me. No one hears me. Hey, help, help! No one cares. No one gives a fuck about me. I live in a dungeon. Okay, anyway. So A Quiet Place Day 1 is going to be my number 4 movie. And what do I have to say about this one? Look, Quiet Place 1, huge, massive movie that, you didn't see it coming at all at the time. And I like it. I like the first one. And then the second one got completely fucked over by COVID. It was supposed to come out the weekend after COVID actually hit the United States, respect to the rest of the world, because I know it hit you guys well before us or well after us. So the second movie got completely fucked over domestically. But it still came out in May of 2021 and did fucking fantastic. It made like 10 million less than the first one did. Quiet Place 2, it just didn't do it for me. Not like the first one. I like the first one, but anyway, but as far as box office, knowing that it did as well as it did, I just think that even though it is a spinoff, it's still a freaking beloved franchise by right now generations. I know a lot of people love 1 and 2. I just feel like even though it is that way, I feel like it's still going to do really good. That's just my one hesitation is, I don't know. It is a spinoff. I don't know. We will see. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, oh, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Planet of the Apes. Okay, so Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is coming out this summer. I think it's actually going to do pretty good. It's directed by a completely different person from that last Apes trilogy. Dare I say a less good director, potentially? I don't know. I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. Yeah, I'm not crazy about Wes Ball, the Maze Runner movie. I watched 1 and 2. I don't even know if he did anything other than 1, but I saw 1 and 2 and didn't really do anything for me. But he's doing Legend of Zelda. And I'm kind of thinking this is going to be the movie to see how I feel about him doing Legend of Zelda. I like the trailers. It looks pretty good. CGI is pretty good. I think, people like these franchises, like King Kong, Planet of the Apes. These franchises are kind of, even though it seems like you're kind of really people still like this, I think they are still kind of beloved. This has very goodwill from the last trilogy. I don't know if as many people know it's not the same director. Like my parents, my dad loves Planet of the Apes, and he was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this new one." I was like, "Yeah, me too. It's directed by a new guy, though. It's not about Caesar." And he was like, "Oh, he didn't know that it was by a new director. He didn't really know too much about it. He just saw there was a Planet of the Apes movie coming by. I wonder how many people are going to be in that same camp." And when they come to see it, they're like, "This isn't by the same director. This isn't the same apes." I don't know. So, putting it here at number 5, pretty comfortably. Furiosa, number 6. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone remember this movie's even coming out this summer? Because I sure as hell fucking didn't. Bad Boys Ride or Die at number 7. I don't know what it is about this movie, but it's just not blinking in my brain that it's a real movie, that it's really coming out. I think it's because the marketing looks a lot like the last Bad Boy movie that came out. That was the movie that was like, look, they're back 20 years later or whatever. This one's just like, oh, they're back again. Okay, interesting. Bad Boy Ride or Die. That I literally, when I was making this video, I couldn't remember which title was which. I kept typing in Bad Boys for Life, referring to this movie. No, this one's Bad Boys Ride or Die. That could have been the last title. So I think that, people, this isn't really on people's radars. That being said, the last movie did $200 million domestically before COVID shut it off. This could easily be the number 4 movie above A Quiet Place. But I just don't think it is, because I'm not really picking up I don't know. I'm just not feeling this movie at all. I barely even knew it was coming out. I just saw a video a couple weeks ago where they were saying, it's coming out June 7th. And I was like, what? Already? Wait, I thought this movie was coming out next year. It just kind of happened. And let's not even I haven't even started about the whole Will Smith slap controversy. Do people even remember that anymore? Where are we going with that? So because of all those reasons, is this movie going to do good? Is this movie going to do great? Is this movie even going to be on the top 10? I have no idea. But I'm kind of leaning towards doing okay. 120, 130 maybe domestically, a little bit of not as much. I just feel like that last one caught on to kind of a magic in the air, a lightning in a bottle, as you could say, of like, oh, they're back, Bad Boys, let's do it, Will Smith, we love Will Smith, we love all the, we love Martin Lawrence. So we decided to, they decided to go to the theaters, and it was not going to work this summer, so we'll see. The Fall Guy at number 8. Can you believe it? The Fall Guy. What do I think about The Fall Guy? It's a original movie. I don't even think anyone's calling it an original movie. It's kind of an original movie. It's based off of that old 70s show that I don't know much about. I'm more of a Love Boat Partridge Family kind of guy. But it is still a Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt. Sorry, Emma? Can I call you Emma? Emily Blunt movie. Directed by David Leitch, Bullet Train director, So there's some names behind it, especially after Oppenheimer. Or Barbenheimer, I should say. We got Ken and Kitty fucking Oppenheimer, in the movie. So why is it so low then? I don't know. I just don't think there's much word about it right now. We're kind of in the season right before it's about to come out. I'm recording this on April 29th. I just don't feel it in the air right now. And it's kind of a, like we said about all these movies, how I feel about it, how I don't feel about it. But something about it, I just think it's going to open up to 30, 40 million maybe, if it's lucky, and might go on to make 100 million, 110, 120, but I don't know, and I don't even know if it's gonna be good. This is all just depending on if it's gonna be good. If it comes out and it's fucking gets horrible reviews, I could see this movie do bombing, to be honest. Anyway, Fall Guy at number 8. You know how I feel about it. I don't know. All right, so I hate adding this. I have to be honest. I hate having this be part of my list. Because for so long, I was just thinking, oh, this movie fucking gonna flop. It ain't shit. It's who's making a Garfield movie with Chris Pratt in 2024. The trailer looks fucking awful. For so long, I thought this was gonna flop. Then I made the list, and I looked at some other movies that were gonna come out, and I debated, and I said, I think it's gonna do better than I originally thought. Because it is an animated movie. It is based off an IP. It does have Chris Pratt, who just starred in the biggest animated movie of last year of the post-COVID times. And if something like The Bad Guys can come out, and if it got good word of mouth, kinda, it went on to make $100 million domestically, or maybe just under it. So now I'm just thinking, man, if Garfield can, come out and make even 80 to 90 to 100, remember, this is all domestic numbers, 80 to 90 to 100 million, that's going to get it on my top 10 list. This could even open to 20 million and leg out to a solid 70 to 80, and it could potentially be maybe not 9, but in the 10 spot. So that's why I'm like, I think I have to include it, because I do think, these kids movies, I know I have 3 on there, and that's going to come out to bite me in the ass. But I'm thinking this could potentially leg out to be in the very bottom of the list. It's the first animated movie of the summer, may I remind you. Inside Out comes out in June, and Despicable Me comes out in July. So this is going to be coming out a little bit earlier than those. It has Memorial Day to go over. So I don't know. What are you guys thinking? I'm thinking Garfield's going to be a contender. I got Twisters. And when I said earlier that there could be a Top Gun Maverick of the summer, it could be Twisters. Because this is the 5th biggest movie in Warner Brothers domestic history, adjusted for inflation. The original Twister, not many people know it, but was absolutely massive the summer that it came out. Something like that, it's been kind of lost over time. I don't really hear many people talk about Twister. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Even in my crazy YouTube pundit spaces of the deepest corners that I get into, you don't hear people talk about Twister that often. It had a cool-ass Universal Studios ride, or show, I should say. That's as far as my knowledge goes to it, because I've never seen the damn movie. I'm going to check it out before I see this Twisters. Honestly, I think the trailers look pretty cool. So that's why I decided to have it so low, because I'm thinking, if it makes it on the list, it could barely make it on. But that's with the asterisk that this movie could blow up if the Top Gun Maverick crowd comes. If every year there's the one that you don't expect to pop off, I could see a lot of people being like, wow, Twister, I remember that movie from earlier. I'm going to take my kids to it. Or I watched Twister on VHS when I was young. I'm going to take, my kids to it. That's people my age and stuff. So I could potentially see this doing bigger. I have to be honest. And I was talking to my friend about my top 10 list. He was talking about, I think you got Furiosa kind of high and you got Twister a little low. And when he said that, I was like, shit, maybe he's right. Furiosa's an R-rated movie. Twister, I mean, this could be freaking huge, based on one of the biggest sequel to one of the biggest movies in Warner Brothers history. But I don't know. That's why it's here at number 10, because I don't know, and I don't see many people talk about Twister. And I don't see many people talking about Twisters. Glenn Powell's a big name, but I mean, he's one of those guys that can come out on a Netflix movie and you had no idea that that movie even came out. He's in, big movies when they're big movies. And Twisters could be one of those big movies, or it could be the one that just, didn't pop off. So what do you guys think? That is the top 10. Let's go over it one more time. I got Inside Out 2 at number 1. I got Deadpool and Wolverine at number 2. I got Despicable Me 4 at number 3. I got A Quiet Place Day 1 at number 4. I have A Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at number 5. I have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga at number 6. Bad Boys, Ride or Die at number 7. The Fall Guy at number 8. The Garfield Movie at number 9. And Twisters at number 10. Alright, so let's go over some cool statistics that I came over while I was making this. I call this the Studio Showdown. So this is going to be the studios that have the movies that I just put on my top 10 and how much they actually are vested into my list. Disney has 3 movies that I think are going to come out this summer and be on my top 10 list. That being Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Deadpool, Inside Out 2. Universal has 3 movies as well, with Twisters, Fall Guy, and Despicable Me 4. I'm not surprised to see these 2 guys atop. Universal, they're killing it, and I'm actually rooting for them because it's fun to see. And I might be going to Universal Studios this summer, so I really hope to see it then. All right, next up I have Sony with 2 movies on my list, that being Garfield and Bad Boys Ride or Die. Now this one's interesting. Warner Brothers also has 2 movies, but it has shared distribution or production or something in Twisters with Universal. They're both going at it together. So I find that pretty interesting. I don't know who's going to get the lion's share of that money, but I wanted to just add that they both have vested interest in both of these movies, so they deserve to have it on both of the list. I imagine they're both going to make a pretty chunk of change if it makes money. And lastly, Paramount with only 1 movie. The fourth spot, a little bit of upside on that. But unfortunately, Paramount only has 1 movie on my top 10 list, and that makes sense. I don't even know if Paramount will still be a thing by the time this summer's over, because I guess it looks like they're going to be bought any day now by the time I'm recording this, which is a damn shame because I love Paramount. They're not the greatest studio. All these studios have their flaws, but I like each studio being its own studio. Don't want Universal to be bought by Sony. That's going to, how shitty that would be? Oh my God. I could rant about that for days. That is the shittiest scenario we could ever live in. And like I've said, I love to do this every year. So these are my stats. I got this from Dan Murrell. I bet you can imagine much of this video is inspired by Dan Murrell. But I'd never copy him. I never, well, I shouldn't say I don't copy him. I never copy his list. I always come up with my own list because what's the fun in that? I haven't even watched his video on his summer predictions this year because I don't want to know. I want to get mine out. I love to do that. Then I'll enjoy his and we compare. But anyway, so this is my previous years that I've done this. In 2019, I got 8 movies correct and I got 4 movies in the correct order. That's the most that I've done on any of these years. The movies that I put on my list that didn't make it were Rocket Man and Dark Phoenix. Look, 5 years ago, okay? Somehow I thought Dark Phoenix would make that list. Sorry. But they were not. They actually made it off the list and were replaced by John Wick 3 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What a fun time when there was actually an original movie on the top 10 summer movies. This year, there's none. 2020 didn't happen. Literally, the summer movie season didn't happen. So I can't even talk about that. 2021, I got 9 movies correct. A little bit easier because there were less movies coming out that summer, but only 2 in the correct order, which that doesn't change for the rest of this list. I put The Suicide Squad because why the hell would you not at the time? And Free Guy ended up being one of the bigger movies that year. In 2022, I got 9 movies correct again, which there were more movies coming out that summer. So I kind of killed it again. I got 2 years in a row of making the same stats. I put the Bob's Burgers movies on my list. Look, like I was saying before, it's so easy in retrospect to talk about why you did something and then, be like, why I shouldn't have. DC League of Super Pets ended up being on that year, that ended up being on the list that year. So that's why I was only making 9 out of 10. I feel like that was the year I could have done 10 out of 10. Because who would ever saw the Suicide Squad flop in the way that it did? James Gunn, DC, Suicide Squad. Who saw that coming? I should have known better than the Bob's Burgers movie. What? I just knew that people my age liked the cartoon. What was I even thinking putting that on that list? DC Super League of Pets. That was the movie I should have put on there. And then lastly, we have last year, which I did not make a video for, but I still did it because I do it every year. But I got 8 movies correct that year with another 2 out of 10 in the correct order. I'm hoping that I can bump that up because what's the point of doing these lists if I keep fucking it up in some way? I put Flash and Fast X on my list because, once again, who wouldn't have put those 2 movies on? And Sound of Freedom and Elemental were able to come out of nowhere, literally Sound of Freedom out of nowhere, and make it on the list. That's still like a fever dream to me. I'm like, wait, that made the top 10 movies of the summer? I barely remember that. It just feels like forever ago. All right, look, so here's a couple stats. Out of the 40 movies that I've had the privilege of guessing, I've got 34 correct. That's an 85%. I need to make at least a 9 or a 10 out of 10 on my list to be able to bump that percentage up to an 86 or an 89. If I get 8 out of 10, it's going down to an 84. So I'm looking to get either a 9 or a 10 out of 10 this year. As far as total correct guess, I've only gotten 10 out of 40 correct guess in the right order, which is just like, that just makes me think, you feel so confident. I'm like, what could somehow Quiet Place be the number one movie this summer? Like, what? How could my list be so wrong every year? It is. You just can't. It's like riding a wild bull, man. Predicting the box office. You can only put so much, thought and preparation into it, and then once you're out there in that goddamn rodeo, it's a fucking bloodbath. So look, as I was saying, I've never made a perfect 10 out of 10. I want to, but there is going to be something that a fork in the goddamn road that you don't see coming, and that are the potential upsets. So this year, what could our potential upsets be? I don't feel too confident about any of these 4 choices, but being on the top 10, maybe if Back to Black, it could do all right. Do people? I mean, I'm not personally an Amy Winehouse fan. Rest in peace to her. She's a great woman, but I don't really feel the hype for this movie at all. I said if earlier, I could see if people like Ryan Reynolds, people like John Krasinski and Steve Carell. It has the Office cast of some of them at least, so potentially this could, get Garfield off of the list and have If in there, but I don't know. Do people want to see this movie? I don't really want to see it at all. I mean, I kind of do, I guess, just because I go see movies, but if I didn't go see movies, I'd have no interest in this. Just a stupid little kids movie, I guess, that isn't based on anything. I mean, I guess I have more interest in seeing this than Garfield, but that's because I just don't really give a fuck about the Garfield movie. Now, you see Alien Romulus on here, and you're probably thinking, look, Alien Romulus should be on your list, not Garfield. The Alien movies have never done too great. I mean, granted, obviously, it's an 80s franchise, 90s franchise, 70s franchise. Those box office totals ain't going to be too big. But when you look at Prometheus being the highest grossing movie in the franchise, and it's only at 160, 170, you got to be kind of like, all right, so this movie would have to blow it out of the waters to be even on the top 10, like it'd have to do over 100 million. And I just don't know if it's going to do that, to be completely honest. And look, I don't think Horizon has any chance of being on the top 10. Any chance? Besides some Sound of Freedom shit that happened last year where you catch that cultural zeitgeist and it was able to pop in there somehow. The Yellowstone crowd, they love Yellowstone types. People love Yellowstone, so maybe, but I don't think there's any chance. I just needed a 4th spot to fill, truthfully, with you, the viewer. I just needed a 4th spot to fill, so I threw Horizon on there. Those 3 right there are the ones that, honestly, Alien, Romulus, and If are the ones that I'm just like, okay, those could potentially make the top 10, if I'm being honest. Don't think they will, but they could potentially. And look, that's it. We're done. Another one of these videos is completed. Can you believe it? I feel like it's so hard to make these sometimes. Then when it's done, I'm just like, man, why do I even put it off? It's so much fun. I love making these videos, and I do it every year because it is so much fun. Just stressful, man, because you want to be right. You want to be right so badly, but you never will. And you always look back and you're like, I should have known that. I should have known that. I should have known that. But you can't do that. You got to live in the moment, and you got to love real fucking spiel. Subscribe. Bye.